Good morning. How many of you have heard the phrase, just do it? What comes to mind? Nike. Right? So Nike phrased this coin back in 1988. So they just entered the market and they were having a heavy competition. And they reached out to this um, ad agency, and then the person coined this phrase, just do it. And after that, their sales grew from millions of dollars to billions of dollars. They got a very good market share in American market. So I was just looking into how how the person came up with this thought, and the inspiration for this just to do it phrase came from a person who committed two murders. He was convicted and he was sentenced to death. And back in 1970s, so it was after a very long time, the US Supreme Court had sentenced him to death. And he was standing before his soldiers and they shot him. And before he was sentenced, right, executed, his last words were, "Let's do it." And this person who came up with this, he had, just do it. He just rephrased it. But that was, just do it kind of made one company grew very large. But there is one more statement in the scriptures which has given strength to a lot of Christians. And it is a life transforming statement that Paul makes in Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. We all know it by heart. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. It is a memory verse. It is an experience of many Christians over the centuries. It's a life transforming experience. When you look at Paul's life, right, where was he writing these words? He was not sitting in a palace, or he was not in his good of days, but he was in a prison cell. He was arrested and he was sitting in prison. After his conversion, his life was marked with suffering and persecution. Right? In one of his journeys, in the first missionary journey, preaching at Lystra, people had actually stoned him. And they dragged him out of the city, and people thought he was dead. But that did not stop him from continuing in his ministry. He possibly could have gone through every trauma of life. Even in the preceding verses, right, Philippians 4:13, we read this verse, but before that, he says in verse 12, I know how to be brought low and I know how to abound in any and every circumstance. I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. So he was not talking from a position of abundance, but he was talking, having experienced every kind of trauma he had gone through. And he is not giving us, all the Christians, a motivational speech. Right? He's writing his own experience. What he's in fact telling is, with God, God gives the ability to his children to face any kind of situation in life. He trusted the Lord and God has led him. When you read in 2 Corinthians, right, he talks about his ministerial sufferings. On one occasion, he was, on a sea, one complete night, he talks about that, and he was flogged with the whip also, many a times. So, he knew what it means to be suffering, and he knew also what it needs to be in abundance. In all of this, he says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Isn't that our experience as well this morning? Many a times, when things go well, we can with assurance say, I can do all things. But when things are not according to our plan, then maybe we feel demotivated, right? But when we look to God, he gives us his supernatural strength and he gives us the ability to face any kind of situation. It is God who gives us the strength and not our strength. With God, we will be able to face any kind of situation. Secondly, in this verse, we also see the assurance of God to his children. What is assurance of God here? That he strengthens his people. Generally speaking, right, when we all work in offices, when you say someone, your colleague saying, I can do all things, the first thing that pops in our mind is too overconfident, right? But what makes this verse difference is through Christ who strengthens me, right? Yes, outsiders can motivate us, they can encourage us, but that will keep us going for a day or two. But with Christ, right, we will be able to face any kind of situation. By nature, many of us are not very confident. We are panicking people. We timid. We overthink. We oversensitize the situation, and we kind of lose track of the situation we are in. But God gives strength to His people. Nowhere in scriptures do we see Bible talking about a life devoid of persecution or suffering for his children. In fact, Paul writing to Timothy says, all who desire to live a godly life will be persecuted. And the book of Psalms talks about human struggles. That's why you are able to connect with Psalms very easily. And in Psalms 46:1, Psalmist writes, God is my refuge and strength, a very present help in time of need. So God gives strength to His people. A very familiar memory verse again from 2 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 9. The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strength to His people whose heart is blameless toward Him. So God's eyes are running to and fro throughout this earth to give strength to His people. So as we get into a time of worship this morning, I want you to reflect upon some memories from your own life where you thought, I cannot face this situation. I am very weak mentally, emotionally, in every situation, right? But when you rely upon God, right, God has given you a way through. God has shown you the way and you were able to face the situation. Not only now, but even in coming days, right, we will come across. And if that has been your experience in the past, I would encourage all of you to take an opportunity to thank the Lord and to worship Him this morning. So we are very few in number. Language doesn't matter. So take this opportunity and worship the Lord based on this one verse. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me.